Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Happy Saturday to you. A bit of a special edition of Let's Talk Tropics, since we do have a tropical storm that is in the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, it was Hurricane Beryl and became a Category 5 for quite some time. Almost a perfectly shaped storm moving across the Caribbean Sea, impacting Jamaica, and then moving across the Cayman Islands. And yesterday, drifting its way across the Yucatan Peninsula, where land and wind shear also took its toll and dropped it down to a tropical storm. And it currently holds with a tropical storm with winds at 60 miles per hour. A real quick check of what we've got going on, though. As we look at the radar, we don't have a lot going on land, but you might notice these rains that are coming out here. Yeah, that's probably a bit of a part of Tropical Storm Beryl, some moisture that's sliding northward, and then we've got a frontal boundary that's up in this area. So we are going to be seeing the chances for rain staying kind of high here over the next several days. And looking at the traffic cams, I don't see any rain on any of these here on I-10. So you're traveling on a Saturday, looks pretty easy. Traffic doesn't look too heavy either. We have partly cloudy skies. The last check of our temperature, 91 degrees with a heat index of 103. But I did want to show you a couple of our hurricane cams, and these are ones that we're going to be watching here for the next couple of days. Beautiful day on South Padre Island out at the beach today. Some decent waves out there, but the sun is shining and quite a bit of traffic moving from the mainland over onto South Padre Island as well. A little bit of a breeze, and we'll probably see the weather going downhill as we go into tomorrow and especially on Monday. This is Aransas Pass, which is just outside of Corpus Christi on one of the barrier islands. You've got Port Aransas, that's on the northern part of South Padre Island that goes there through Mustang Island. And then we've also got a camera here over in Galveston. So again, we'll be watching these over the next couple of days, and these will probably look pretty interesting as we get into Monday morning. So let's go ahead and look at the satellite imagery. And we've got a fairly well-formed tropical storm. Really got torn apart here as it moved across the Yucatan Peninsula during the day yesterday. Some dry air trying to work its way around the backside of that has had an effect on it as well. And hurricane reconnaissance aircraft have been out there today, and they're kind of finding a non-vertically stacked center where you might have the low-level center of circulation down here and more of a mid-level center of circulation a little bit offset. So it isn't a very organized storm, although it is over some pretty warm waters here over the Gulf of Mexico, and there was a bit of an upper low out here to the west that was kind of taking an effect on it. It looks like it still might be blowing off the tops of those clouds there on the west side a bit, so you might be getting some shear over there. And then notice you got kind of a big blob of moisture that's kind of pulling apart from the main area, which isn't real unusual for lopsided tropical storms. Some of this might lift its way up to Louisiana, and again, already getting at least enough energy to produce some showers and thunderstorms there right along the coast. So the forecast track still has it moving off toward the northwest over toward the Texas coast. There's the cone that we got at 10 o'clock, and we'll get another cone coming up at 4 o'clock later this afternoon. The forecast still calls for a hurricane to make landfall there along the southern central Texas coast sometime during the early part of the day on Monday as a hurricane. And most of the models are running up to a Category 1 or a strong tropical storm. And you can see that most of the track models here have now really kind of fallen into an agreement here across the south and south central Texas coast, a little bit farther north than where they were yesterday, but they are still pretty clustered right in this area. And some of the stragglers that were out in this area have now started to push their way a little bit closer as well. So the forecast confidence for lower to mid-Texas coastline hit is pretty high now, which is actually pretty good considering we're still a full 2 days apart away from a landfall. And the cone and most of the models have been calling for an upper Mexican coast, southern Texas coast hit probably for a little over a week. So I know those folks there in South Texas have been in the cone pretty much the entire time, and most of them will probably take the warnings. Now, there's a look at the intensity models, and just leading up to, again, about 48 hours, less than 48 hours now, so 36 to 48 hours is where we're going to see landfall. Some models take it up to a weak Category 1 and then a moderate tropical storm as well. So anywhere between, let's say, 50 mile per hour winds and to 80 mile per hour winds. This is in knots here, so we'll go 60 to 80 on the wind speeds here at landfall, and then a quick drop off as it continues to move inland, and then it becomes more of a rainmaker as we go through time. So the GFS model is calling for a very strong tropical storm, borderline hurricane, pushing its way there onto the coast of Texas. And it looks like the GFS model is pretty much pinpointing Port Aransas as a strong tropical storm or possibly a Category 1 hurricane with those winds there just over 60 knots. So that's just under hurricane threshold. The Euro model isn't much different. This one also going with a little over a 60-knot wind, and the Euro as Port O'Connor, Texas, as its landfall as a tropical storm or a weak Category 1, a low-end Category 1 hurricane. The HWRF, which has been running considerably stronger than several of the other ones, kind of backing off as well. It is right at hurricane strength, and it also has a Port Aransas Rockport area type of landfall sometime on Monday, but it comes in a little bit earlier than what the GFS and the Euro go in, about maybe 6 hours quicker. So we're really starting to get down to the nitty-gritty on these forecasts within maybe dozens of miles and couples of hours is what we're looking at now. And the HAFS model is the strongest of them all. It goes with a 70-knot wind, so that is a Category 1 hurricane. And it is also pinpointing Port O'Connor as a Category 1. So you've got two models that are going with Port O'Connor, and you basically got two models that are going right about in here, somewhere between Rockport and down toward Aransas Pass over in Texas. And you can see the onshore flow continues on the east side of this, so that is going to be piling up some water along the coast. Again, that northwesterly turn that was expected is now starting to be felt by Hurricane Beryl, or rather Tropical Storm Beryl, as we've got this trough here. Again, it's going to go ahead and move inland, and then we're probably going to see it kind of get caught up in the westerlies, and that could bring us a better chance for rain over much of Texas and Louisiana over the next couple of days. And on the east side of this storm, we'll probably see our tides running about 2 to 3 feet above normal along the Cameron Parish coast, and a little bit less as you go farther to the east. Now, I think the biggest risk for much of Texas and even for us here in southwest Louisiana could be the potential for the rains. The moderate risk is here in the orange, and then you've got the slight risk in the yellow, and then a marginal risk in the green here. So we're kind of on the borderline in Acadiana. West side could possibly get some decent rains, and the expected rainfall amounts over the next 5 days are impressive, but really not anything that we can't handle here in the Acadiana region. The darker greens here are anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, and then you got 4 to 6 here along the Cameron Parish coast. But that would be over a 5-day period. The heaviest amounts of rain, of course, are going to be closer to the center of circulation as it moves inland over portions of Texas. So I would say from Houston westward, and then down toward Corpus Christi, and then northward going up to around the just east of the Dallas-Fort Worth area is probably going to be the areas that will have the most threat for flooding. Now, storm surge forecast is going to be up to 5 feet here along the Texas coast. They're talking about 2 to 4 at Galveston Bay, and then as you get down toward Corpus Christi, 3 to 5. But again, if the hurricane or the tropical storm, whichever it may be, if it goes inland up here, you're going to have a much higher storm surge here. And Corpus Christi, of course, would have an outgoing flow, and they would have a low water issue there in Corpus Christi. But I think anywhere from around Aransas Pass and then northward going all the way up to Galveston and even up to High Island here, we'll probably see some storm surge flooding of about 2 to 4 feet there. And as far as the winds, I think our offshore friends are going to be experiencing more of the tropical storm force winds in our offshore waters, while most of Acadiana has a pretty low end chance, less than 5%, maybe 5 to 10% here over far southwestern Louisiana. You might be getting up into a 20 to 30% chance that you would see a tropical storm force wind there off the Cameron Parish coast. So the bulk of the action is going to be heading over toward Texas. So as far as us here in Acadiana, I don't think we need to be any more concerned than what we have been. If you live close to the coast or you have plans on going maybe down to Cameron or Vermilion parishes, just be aware that the tides are going to be up and there could be some road closures down there. And then the forecast for the next several days is just going to be increased rain chances. And it looks like Beryl is going to move very slow moving across East Texas. So we might be in this rain game probably until about the middle part of next week. Just real quick, we'll look and see if there's anything else out there. Disturbance 96L still just really is looking pretty ragged here. In fact, the National Hurricane Center kind of dropped it off the forecast page yesterday, and they're not expecting any development there. And there's a ton of dry air and Saharan dust that's out in the Atlantic Ocean right now. Maybe a little flare-up of some activity here, but nothing to worry about. Then a ton of dust, even some dry and some cooler air kind of coming in off the African coast there over the eastern part of the Atlantic. So we're not expecting any tropical development in addition to Tropical Storm Beryl here over the next several days. So a lot of folks have been asking, what should we be doing to prepare? Well, you're not really going to have to necessarily prepare directly for Beryl, but as I've been telling folks, these are things that you could have been doing since before the hurricane season. Make sure your batteries are all charged up. You got flashlights and water, non-perishable foods. First aid kit, make sure that's stocked. For if you got prescription medicines, make sure you know how much you have now and where you would get your prescription medicine if you indeed had to evacuate. Personal hygiene and house cleaners. Put all your IDs and your important papers. Maybe take pictures of them and save them as digital. Kids entertainment, a basic tool set, and make sure you've got your pool pet supplies. You have to make sure you have these well ahead. So even though we do have a tropical storm out there and it's not really going to be affecting the Acadiana area, these are still things that you can be doing right now while all of the things are readily available and the crowds are not big at the grocery store. So that's a look at what we've got. I'm not too concerned about what's going to be happening here over the next couple of days other than some moderate to heavy rain. Most likely we'll go ahead and do another Let's Talk Tropics on Sunday just because it'll be making landfall and we might see some cool shots on some of our hurricane cams that we have up. And I've got those hurricane cams. The links are listed in the description below. So if you want to check those out on your own when you want, you can do that there. So if you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics and this page, Acadiana Weather Today, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends too, because this has kind of been a run through on a first close call when it comes to a tropical system. So if we get more, and I'm sure we will over the course of the hurricane season, we'll of course do a lot more when it comes to Let's Talk Tropics. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will probably see you on Sunday.